People say, get your money on.
Shalom, shalom. First, I want to start off by giving all honor, praises, and infinite glory to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahushua, by Hashem, Rechak, Radash. I want to give double honors unto the elders, apostles, and bishops, the GMS Great Millstone, who rule well, teach, and edify, and peace and blessings to sincere Akim Wa'akwat in his household of faith. My name is Ishai from the GMS Arizona Church. And Adawan Ratazah, going to make an edifying video, man. You know, going into this little clip I seen, just scrolling through some of these YouTube shorts, man. And this is, speaking on that money, that get your money up demon, man. You know, the scriptures talk about, and also highlighted in Matthew, the 6th chapter in the Lord's Prayer, give us our daily bread. You know, we're not in this faith to be multi-millionaires, to be, the richest guy, man, to be the most loved of the family and whatnot, man. We're not in this truth to be Mr. Big Baller, man. We in this truth to serve Yahweh Hashem Yahushua, live out our judgment and do the work. To follow Yahweh Hashem Yahushua and keep his commandments, to fear the Lord and keep his commandments, man. We not in this truth for no type of glory, and money is a defense. That's not saying that's the bros not being able to have money. Like, if you got, a few dollars is not bad. And the apostles go into that, man. Having money doesn't mean, when we talk about being a rich man, we're not talking about having maybe 15, 20,000 in a savings account. That just means, you got some good financial decisions. You also got some good opportunities, man. The Lord gave you gifts ultimately, because the scriptures talk about in the New Testament, every good gift is sent from high, sent from above, from Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. So if you ahead of your bills, man, blessed are you. Okay, but we talking about, trying to aspire to buy the McLarens, trying to buy the newest Porsches, the V12 Mercedes and all that madness, man. It's all vanity, And I'm gonna run this clip. I'm gonna run this clip, and we're gonna get into a couple scriptures, Lord willing, man.
People say, get your money on, get your money on. I hate that. And that's your motivation. If you do well, the money will come.
That's what I know.
You know what I mean? And quit focusing on the money.
Right.
Because it's not about the money. People say, get your money on, get your money on.
Okay, there's a couple points in there that he said, that ties to the scriptures, man. He says, quit focusing on the money will come. And that just goes into our course of, thy daily bread. And, man, precepts is flying right now. Let's, man. Okay, I'm going to start with this, Salakia. Bear with me for 1 second. I'm not finding it. Okay. Salakia, pardon me on that. This is 1 Timothy chapter 6 and verse 6. It's been a while since I got down. And this reads, but godliness with contentment is great gain, for we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain we can carry nothing out. And that's the thing, man. The times that we're in, we're not in times that you could even enjoy the fruits of being laborious in this world, man. We're not in times where you could literally just enjoy everything that you worked for. In a worldly aspect. Our work has to be in heavenly standpoints, because ultimately at this, we don't have no 10 years left, man. We coming down to counting months. If you don't got a good relationship with Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, ultimately, what do you have a good relationship with? With yourself, with your world, with your family, with your business. All that stuff is going to yield you nothing aside from, joy for now. And joy for now is not going to do anything for you when there's ICBMs coming down and pelting this place, man. We want to please the Lord, and by pleasing the Lord, may give mercy upon his elect in the times that are to come, when he brings the judgment upon the face of this earth, man. Because this earth is wicked, it's gross, it's disgusting. And the Lord must come, and he's going to demolish this place. This is Luke chapter 12 and verse 21 in the NLT. It says, yes, a person is a fool to stir up earthly wealth, but not have a rich relationship with Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. That person could be considered a fool, that's worried more about his bank account and his lands and his, you know, and things like that than Yahweh Shem Yahushua, man. If a brother has money, you know, or if you have, you know, money and, you know, things like that, that's a back burner in your life, man. You know, that money's like a side chick, like it's whatever, man. You know, you might deal with it, have some fun with it, you know, but the scriptures talk about, you know, forget not thy first love. You know, the scriptures talk about in the Revelations, forgetting not thy first love, man. You know, if thy first love is his truth, is Yahweh Shem Yahushua. And also, this is Psalms chapter 2 in verse, 12? It says, kiss the son, lest he be angry, and ye perish from the way, when his wrath is kindled but a little. Blessed are all they that put their trust in him. You know, and that just shows where a man puts his, you know, oh man, where's that one? Let's tie those two precepts in. I wanted to get this one. Hold up. This is at Matthew chapter 6 and verse 21. Yeah, Matthew chapter 6 and verse 21. And we'll actually start up a little bit. It says at 19, it says, lay not yourselves treasure upon earth, where moth and dust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. But lay yourselves up treasure in heaven. You know, how do you do that? By following Yahweh Shem Yahushua, keeping his commandments. You know, going through these tests and going through these chastisements, fearing the Lord and having faith in Yahweh Shem Yahushua, man. You know, building up that spiritual bank account, so to say. It says, where neither moth nor dust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through nor steal, because the kingdom of heaven is going to be an everlasting kingdom. You know, the nation of Israel is going to be put on high, and they ain't going to be brought down ever. You know, the scriptures talk about an affliction shall not rise again. Okay, because the Lord's going to come in and fix all that. You know, he's going to set a new order, a new management. He's going to change our bodies, you know, change everything. Right. And he's going to abolish the wicked, man, which is Esau, Edom. Because we know after 1,000 years of his brutal captivity in the kingdom of Yahushua, they'll be completely done away with as a nation. And the rest of the nations will be the rest of the nations will be ruled over by the nation of Israel, man. You know, under the law, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh Shem Yahushua, and the world will be in that due subjection. It says, for where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. If, you know, the light of the body is the eye. If therefore thy eye be single, thy whole body be full of light. And that's our light, man. That's our joy, you know, because riches, they bring a spirit of joy, man. You know, a lot of things in his life bring a spirit. That's why when you see a guy, you know, rent a Lamborghini, he starts thinking that, you know, that's his shit. You know, that's why when you see a dude walking around with a real beautiful woman, you know, he starts acting real proud, man. You know, the scriptures talk about, you know, knowledge puffeth up. So when a man seems as though that he have wisdom, you know, relating that to that situation is wisdom in the world. You know, when people think that they're wise in the world and they have lavish things, you know, they count themselves better than everybody else. And that's what their light is. That's what they think that they can express themselves through. That's what they think that they're, you know, that they're important by. You know, and us in his truth, man, you know, we're no kings, man. I'm no king. I can say that for sure. You know, I'm waiting for Yahweh Shem Yahushua to make me a king, man. You know, I'm just trying to, you know, humbly get by, man, and do that which is right, because the scriptures talk about man at his best is altogether vanity. Vanity is just vain, man. Dust. You know, it's just here and there and gone. You know, like, you know, even in the Apocrypha, man, I believe there's a precept that goes into like, you know, people, you know, generations back, you know, who are they now? So like, let's really think about it, man. You know, if you ask a young kid, you know, a kindergartner, who's Babe Ruth? He be like, I don't know. Is that a video game? You know, or for say, you know, name the top gladiator in the Roman times. You can't do it because it's just completely irrelevant. That man's, you know, everything is just gone. But at the time that he was here on this earth, man, he was gloried, you know. And that's the thing, man. You know, we taking the low, we being humbled in Yahweh Shem Yahushua, because when Yahweh was here on this planet, man, he wasn't gloried. The Lord is gloried in heaven right now, but not even in the earth. You know, so who are we to even think that we deserve any level of glory when even our Lord isn't gloried in this earth, man? So all that being said, you know, that whole chasing money spirit, man, and I hope through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahushua, this is edifying in a sense as to, you know, what is your intention even chasing money, man? You know, by no means is it bad. If you're able to work and you're able to get a couple extra bucks under your belt, man, do so in a way that it doesn't obscure with the truth. And as a matter of fact, come on, I kind of forget how this precept goes. You know what I remember, Salakia? Damn. Man, English is so screwed up, man. I can't wait till we never have to use this bugged out language again, man. Anyways, this is Sirach chapter 18. And we'll start at verse 24. It says, the wisdom of a learned man cometh by opportunity of leisure, and he that hath little business shall become wise. How can he get wisdom that holdeth the plow, and that glorieth in the goad, that driveth oxen, and is occupied in their labors, and whose talk is of bullocks? So basically saying, those opportunities of leisure, man, your so-called free time, is the time that Yahweh Shem Yahushua gives you to get wisdom. Even primarily, we want to be reading these scriptures, man, watching videos, going into the breakdowns, but even on another term, man, because sometimes, much studying make it the weariness of the heart, roughly paraphrasing. You could even start looking into things like the herbs, man, the Hebrew. There's so many things that in this truth we ought to know, and a major thing too is how to take care of yourself. A lot of times in bro's leisure times after they, did all their spiritual work, man, they'll go into the gym and get that physical work, man. They'll go take a walk, man. Bro's getting into calisthenics. There's a beloved brother out here in Arizona, man. I swear this brother can do like a triple backflip. I'm gassing a little bit, but that brother, man, that brother is, uber athletic, and that he wasn't given that, just from sitting around, trying to get some money. He was given that gift from Yahweh Shem Yahushua because, in his leisure time, that's what he applied his excess energy to, man. The little crumbs, because that primary energy goes to Yahweh Shem Yahushua in doing his work, man. And that's something that we all got to do better at, yea, myself included. We have examples of men that do that in this truth this day. Look at the diligence of the apostles, and even the scriptures written aforetime, are written for our learning. Look at the diligence of Yahweh Shai when he was here on the scene, man. Because Hebrews 12:2, looking unto the author and finisher of our faith, who is Yahweh Shai. He's that chief cornerstone. He's that foundation. So let your foundation be founded in Yahweh Shem Yahushua. And all that equates to a man that is heavy in his truth, not heavy in the world. What did Yahweh Shai say to that rich man that asked how he's to be at the kingdom, man? He says, sell all thy, goods and follow me. And he was like, oh, nah, I don't know about that, man. Because at the end of the day, it's a tough thing for a rich man to even enter in the kingdom of Yahweh Shem Yahushua because, ultimately they love it here, man. This is their comfort here. This is Luke 12, not Luke 12. This is Luke, I'm going to see, chapter 9, and it should be verse 62. And it says, and Yahushua said unto him, no man having put his hand to the plow and looking back is fit for the kingdom of Yahweh Shem Yahushua. And you coming into this truth, that's your vow to Yahweh Shem Yahushua. Because the scriptures talk about, count the cost. And before thou serve the Lord, prepare thy soul for temptation. That's a spirit of temptation that can make itself look like good. Because, I'm getting money so I can, make my trip, make my stay in this truth easier. But then you start, overly chasing money. That's anything, man. It's not wrong to have multiple wives. But then at some threshold, you may have more wives than you were able to handle. It's not wrong to have some money, maybe a decent car, but when you start just trying to get more and more, that's going to ultimately, distract you in this truth, man. Look at King Solomon, the wisest king, the wisest one, overtook him by the woman, just serving the other gods by building those temples unto them, man. Look at Samson, overtook him by the woman. And I mention the woman so much because a lot of the reason some guys like to have money is because it impresses women. You know, they feel as though it makes their living situation better because they're able to provide more. Because as a man, you know, we seek to provide. But in Babylon, you know, you being able to provide is all fucked up. You know, real talk. You know, in Babylon, a man that you know, back in the day used to provide by being able to actually work and build things, build stables, take care of animals, you know, plant vineyards, and you know, your work actually meant something. Nowadays, you're just working under somebody else, or you're working over a few people, and just getting a digital check, you know. And this is just, it's all so just busted up, man. This is a screwed up society that we're living in, man, for real. And damn, I was talking too much. I lost the precept that I wanted to get. Shalakia. But I wanted to get we'll just real quick, we'll get Sirach chapter 18 or 19. It says, a laboring man that is given to drunkenness shall not be rich, and he that contemneth small things shall fall little by little. So it's, you know, sometimes, you know, it might not be a big issue, but once it starts getting to be a big issue, you know, at that stage, it's already taken you, man. You already fell. And the scriptures talk about a righteous man falleth 7 times, but get it back up, and the wicked fall into mischief. You know, that's the thing, man. You know, the ways of a man, I knew a precept I wanted to get. There you go. This is Proverbs chapter 27 and verse 20. It says, hell and destruction are never full, so the eyes of man are never satisfied. You know, so before bringing in that next precept, man, you know, hell and destruction are never full, so the eyes of man are never satisfied. You know, you are ultimately just going to constantly want, and want. You know, that's the thing about this society, man. Babylon the Great is an over-consuming society. And not only that, you know, they've on the left-hand side, you know, blessed all of their things, you know, with spirits about them, man. Covetous spirits. The scriptures say he blessed the covetous, you know, and oppressed the poor in Psalms, you know, in which the Lord abhorreth. You know, and this is the type of society that we're living in. So, of course, there's going to be, you know, something that, you know, brothers is going to have to get over, man. You know, when you come into this truth, you have to really let go of the world. And this is actually a point that's highlighted in Romans, the 12th chapter in the 2nd verse, man. And it says, and be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed. You know, how do you get transformed? By this word, man. And that's why it's so important to be locked in spiritually. Like, it's so important because, you know, we're baptized by this word, man. The word and the power of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. And a baptism for us, man, is a daily thing. You know, we were constantly trying to, you know, wash up those imperfections, man. To repent to Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai and wash away those sins. You know, that daily baptism through this word that keeps us locked in and our priorities in check. You know, which helps us keep our mind not conformed to this world. Because when you start becoming lackadaisical, you know, the scriptures say, blessed is he who is his spirit is found no guile. You know, that word guile, you know, one of the definitions of it is lax or laxness. You know, basically is just with like a, you know, nonchalant, I don't care attitude towards this truth, man. And you can't have that at all. You know, and that can be highlighted in a man that's trying to be in this truth, but also trying to be in the world. You know, and that man, you know, is not pleasing Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai with his actions. He's conforming to Esau, Edom, and his system, to his dainties. Matter of fact, another one is this is Sirach chapter 37 and 29. It says, be not unsatiable in any dainty thing, nor too greedy upon meats. And if you go into the word dainty, it means pleasurable. You know, it's pleasurable to have money. It's pleasurable to have women. But the times that we're in, man, you know, that the amount of focus that you have on those things should be very, very, very little, man. You know, brothers shouldn't be in that spirit of trying to constantly go out. Be in that spirit of constantly, you know, trying to, you know, find a new bag or find, you know, we ain't out here trying to go to college, be some doctors and shit right now, man. You know, we really trying to get closer to Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai in any way that we can. you know, and blessed are those that stay diligent, man. The scriptures say, give diligence to make thy calling and election sure. This isn't a comparison between one brother to another brother, because ultimately, man, each man has their own blessing of talents, and each man has their own, level of folly. So I can't go to the apostles and expect to do exactly what they do, because the Lord has given them, different talents and more talents in certain things. Most things, man. Those are men of great, knowledge in Yahweh Shem Yahushai. But this is a you versus you thing, man. That's what it comes down to. And that's also the importance of exhortation videos, because it wakes up that inner man. So you can start looking at your outer man for what it is, which is a distraction, because only you really know what the fuck you do behind closed doors, man. Only you and Yahweh Shem Yahushai, of course, know what you got going on, and the way that you think, when all is said and done, when you close that door, and I pray that this lesson was edifying, and invoking that inward man, because, everyone that has a sincere spirit towards Yahweh Shem Yahushai, their inward man is surely strong, man, because it's in Yahweh Shem Yahushai. Real quick, this is Exodus, just proving that. This is Exodus chapter 13 and verse 2. And it reads, "Sanctify unto me all the firstborn, whatsoever openeth the womb among the children of Israel, both of man and of beast, it is mine." Sanctify those, the church of the firstborn, man, the first fruits. Lord willing, we be a part of the elect, chiefly the 144,000 elect, man. We really want to make it. The 144,000 elect are the eldest angels. Those eldest spirits, they were alongside Yahweh Shai in making this world, man. Their intent is always going to be on fire, and their inward man, the elect's inward man. Those people who truly follow Yahweh Shem Yahushua. The scriptures talk about, these are they that, roughly paraphrasing, they follow the sheep whithersoever he goeth, man. And that's something that can't be made. That's a gift from Yahweh Shem Yahushua. And if you have that gift, exercise it by all means. And that's why that parable of this sower, or the that goes in so deep, man. The parable of talents. Lord, you have been faithful in much, so I'll give you 10 cities. But Lord, I fear that you were an austere man, so I hid my talent, hid a napkin, until you came. And he says, "Depart from me, thou wicked servant," man. The spirit of the elect are going to be those that take that gift and do the will of Yahweh Shem Yahushai. And this is Joshua chapter 1, and I'm going to start at verse 7. It says, "Be strong and very courageous, that thou mayest observe to do according to all the law, which Moses my servant commanded thee. Turn not from it to the right hand or to the left, that thou mayest prosper whithersoever thou goest." That doesn't mean that you could be in this truth and then, trying to be Mr. Big Baller and trying to, get out there, man, in the world. We see guys that happen to, man. And I humbly say this, Lord forbid, may overcome me, man. With me being a young bro, we seen guys that this happened to, man. Like the Hesed, those guys from Genesis, taking the bag, man. Taking that bag, and that's because that's what happens. You can't tie this truth with the world, man. This truth and the world don't mix. It's like oil and water, man. They just can't go together. One has substance and one does. Like, think of like RO water. It has no substance. It's just basically just. I wouldn't even compare it to air, because it doesn't do you no good. At least air helps you breathe. It says in verse 8, it says, "The book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth, which thou shalt meditate therein day and night." And that's why the scriptures say, examine thyself before judgment comes in the Apocrypha, man. Before judgment comes, examine thyself, man. Think about the things that you're doing and the ways that you're walking. And is it in line with Yahweh Shem Yahushai? Is it in line with the Lord's will? Is it conformed to the spirit or conformed to the world? Because we know that he that reapeth to the flesh, he that soweth to the flesh reapeth corruption, and And Lord forbid that come upon us, man. We don't want to be, part of that group that's out there, reaping that corruption, man. But it says, for then thou shalt make thy ways prosperous, and thou shalt have good success. So what, Bernie Mac was saying in that clip, man, the money will come. If the Lord has it in your walk to where you have a couple extra, shekels and dimes, it's not going to be by your hand that you're going to fucking get it. It's not like you make these opportunities for yourself. The Lord ultimately makes all these opportunities. Most of the time when you have something, and truly good, and it's truly a gift, and it doesn't stop or, fight against this truth, man, it usually be coming in the most, like, just falls in my lap type of way. That's how, it's been in my truth. I'm a brother that, I deal with some women here and there, man. And I can tell you the ones that worked out the best, the ones that gave me the least hell and the most peace, were the ones that literally, just came out of the blue. It's like it just got dropped on me, and brothers can attest to that in their walks as well. It just basically fell on your lap. You weren't even worried about it, and it just, boom, it's there. And that's why it's so important, man, to hang on to Yahweh Shem Yahushua, because the Lord knows when, the scriptures talk about the Lord knows how to give a gift. I don't want to make this too long-winded either, man, but I hope I'm just hitting this point home. The Lord knows how to give a gift. Scriptures talk about that, in I believe it's in Luke. I think it might be in Matthew too. The Lord's the ultimate gift giver, man. And the scriptures say it's his good pleasure to give us the kingdom. And that's our ultimate, man. That's the ultimate gift. We're out here suffering. We can't forget we're in captivity, man. Real talk. We in captivity and seeing a lot of people win right now. All right, but we're not worried about them. This is you versus you, okay? We trying to get that crown, man. Get your crown. It says, have not I commanded thee, be strong and of good courage? Be not afraid, neither thou be dismayed, for the Lord thy power is with thee, whithersoever thou goest. And, Khan, I think that put the nail in the coffin there on that, that spirit, man. I pray this lesson was edifying. I want to lastly give all honor, praises, and infinite glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rachak Wadash, Shalom.